Good morning, conference. Thank you, President, and hi, General Secretary, NEC, delegates, guests. It is so lovely to be back and really wonderful to be here. So thank you for, first of all, inviting me back as well. And before I say anything else, I wanted to kick off with an enormous thank you. I genuinely would not be here today as a Member of Parliament, let alone the Minister for Employment Rights, without the incredible support and backing of my union community. There are so many people. There are so many people in this room, and it's been lovely just looking around and recognising so many familiar faces that I've worked with for a long time, and on stage, who've supported me, challenged me, campaigned alongside me and believed in me over the years, and I'll always be so grateful for that. I've got incredibly fond memories of my time working at community, including helping organise these biennial delegate conferences. It's quite nice to not be running around with a headset and stressing about the timings. And I've left that to Dan and Dom and the work of the excellent team now. But it does feel really special to be back here with you all. And I'm really proud to call myself a community member of Parliament. The last time I stood at a platform at community conference was in Belfast in 2022, and that feels quite like a lifetime ago now. And back then, Labour was in opposition. I remember in my speech, as I was giving my report of the politics section, that I spoke about our vision for a new deal for working people and about the really important partnership between Labour and the trade union movement to build a package of employment rights based on the real experiences of working people, experiences that community members brought into every single discussion. And at that point, they were plans. They were ideas, commitments, promises about what a future Labour government could do. And today, 4 years later, I have the enormous privilege of standing here, able to say that we did it. Not only has this Labour government delivered the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation through the Employment Rights Act, but I have the enormous responsibility and privilege of being the minister responsible for delivering it. And I honestly don't think there could be a prouder moment in my political life, because none of this happened by accident. These reforms didn't suddenly appear in a government department after the election. They were built over years of campaigning, of partnership and of determination. Years of workplace representatives raising concerns, years of unions gathering evidence, years of members, people here today in this room, telling us what life at work had become after 14 years under a Tory government that made life harder for working people. The Tories led a government that attacked trade unions instead of working with them. They stripped back workers' rights. They made it harder to organise. And that too often saw employment protections as a burden rather than the foundation of our economy. Labour chose a different path, one built on partnership with working people and the trade union movement. I remember these conversations when I was working at community and for all of you, talking about what a Labour government should do differently, looking at the evidence, listening to members, and working alongside Labour to build something really ambitious. So ambitious that it was a priority in our first 100 days of coming into office. Community wasn't simply consulted. Community helped shape it. So now every person in this room and outside should feel a real sense of ownership over what has now become law. And when you look back, Labour has always changed the world of work when we've been in government. It was Labour that introduced the national minimum wage, Labour that transformed maternity rights, Labour that strengthened protections against discrimination, and now Labour that has delivered the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation. Rights from day one, fairer protection from unfair dismissal, stronger flexible working rights, improvements to statutory sick pay, including from day one that we just heard about in the discussion before my speech, better protections for parents, and legislation that once again puts dignity, security and fairness back at the heart of working life. But one of the things I'm even more proud about in the Employment Rights Act is what it does for trade unions themselves. Because we know that that's something the Conservatives never understood, and Reform still doesn't. That strong trade unions are not bad for business. Good industrial relations are good for business. And the very best employers understand that working with their unions doesn't weaken their business, that it strengthens it. It creates better workplaces, better engagement, higher productivity, greater retention, and ultimately better jobs with better pay. And I know that has always been Community's approach. This has never been a union interested in conflict for conflict's sake. It has always believed that where employers are prepared to engage constructively, working in partnership, that then we can deliver better outcomes for workers and for businesses alike all across the country. And that is exactly what this Labour government believes too. Which is why the Employment Rights Act makes it easier for workers to organise, simplifies the trade union recognition process, introduces modern e-balloting, and I'll be passing the legislation for that tomorrow afternoon, strengthens protections for trade union representatives and removes barriers that make it harder for working people to have that collective voice in the workplace. Because workers having a voice at work isn't a barrier to economic growth. It's one of the foundations of sustainable growth. Businesses thrive then when they can recruit, retain, and motivate talented people. People who have the security at work to seize opportunities, develop their skills, and build long-term careers are more productive, more engaged, and more likely to stay. Fairness at work isn't a barrier to growth. It's one of the foundations for sustainable growth. And that's why our Employment Rights Act isn't just good for working people, it's good for employers too. Many of them are already delivering lots of what's in the legislation because they've worked with unions, with Community, with members and reps in this room every day, week in, week out to deliver them. And we know why it's important, because it rewards those businesses that already do the right thing and helps create the conditions for a stronger economy built on that partnership and not insecurity. And there's another reform that feels particularly personal. I remember campaigning alongside Community members when Clark's tried to fire and rehire its workforce. I remember meeting members and hearing from them who'd given years of loyal service only to be told to accept worse pay and conditions or lose their jobs altogether. It was fundamentally wrong. No loyal worker should ever be put in that position, and fire and rehire should never be a business model. That is why Community fought so hard to change the law. And I'm incredibly proud that this Labour government has legislated to strengthen protections against fire and rehire. These new protections come into force as we continue to implement the Employment Rights Act. Having passed it in December last year, over the coming months and years ahead, we'll be ensuring that employers can no longer use these tactics as a negotiating tool except in genuinely exceptional circumstances. But that's another example of what can just be achieved when trade unions and a Labour government work together campaigning for lasting change. And of course you all know that passing legislation is only the beginning of change in the workplace and on the ground. Rights that are written into law have to become rights that people genuinely experience and feel at work. Implementation matters, enforcement matters, making sure employers comply matters, and that is now my responsibility as Minister. And I can assure you all that I'll continue working really closely with Community and our trade union partners to make these reforms make a real lasting difference in workplaces across the country. Because lasting change has always been delivered through partnership. Government can't do it alone, trade unions can't do it alone, real progress comes when we work together. And there's still more to come. We'll continue implementing the remaining measures in the Employment Rights Act, including stronger protections, as I've mentioned, against fire and rehire, but going further, guaranteed hours for workers on insecure and zero-hours contracts, banning the exploitative zero-hours contracts where people don't know how much they'll afford, be able to pay their bills each month, each week, building that security for people at work, enhanced protections for pregnant women and new mothers, and stronger safeguards during collective redundancy too. This is a programme of reform that will continue improving working lives long after today's conference has finished. But we also know that these gains can never, ever be taken for granted. The Conservatives opposed these reforms at every single stage in Parliament. Reform did too. And they've made it clear that they would repeal every single bit of this legislation and strip back these rights for working people across the country. That would weaken trade unions and undo the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation. So our job is not to just celebrate what we've achieved. Going forwards, it's to defend it. Because the history of our movement teaches that every right that working people enjoy today was fought for. None of them were simply handed over. Every generation has a responsibility not only to win new rights, but to protect them for those who come after us. I think it's a pretty good example, the Employment Rights Act, of what can be achieved when the Labour Party, trade unions come together and work together. The conversations that you'll be having here over the coming days, the different motions and debates you'll be debating, the conversations we had when I was working for Community and continue to have with all of you, gathering that evidence from workplace reps, experiences by members, that campaigning has never stopped and it never will. Together, that became the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation. We've got a responsibility to defend it, to see where we can work together going forwards in so many different areas of work that I know are a priority for Community. But let's never forget that this legislation didn't begin in Whitehall. It began in workplaces, in branches, in conversations that you have every single day with your members across the country, in trade unions like Community. So I'm so proud to have worked for you all. I'm so proud to be a Community Member of Parliament, and I'm really proud that together we've shown once again what Labour and the trade union movement can achieve. So let's continue working together to defend these hard-won rights, deliver for working people, and build a stronger, fairer Britain. Thank you.